Alright, it's Illuminostic, and today we're going to make a video about the much maligned Illuminati. And I personally think wrongfully maligned. I do think that the Illuminati still exist, and that they actually did pull off their plan to some extent. It was not a total success, but not a total failure either. Part of the reason that I'm making this video is that aside from having, been initiated into Masonic mystery schools myself and having some direct first-hand experience into what it's all about, I've just noticed that there is a tremendous amount of conjecture out there, conjecture built upon conjecture. It's like one guy has come up with all of these crazy ideas about what the thing is, why it's there, what it's doing, and then 10 years later you have somebody like David Wilcox who picks up on all this stuff that is not got anything to do with reality, and he puts all of his crazy ideas on top of it, and then you've built this pyramid with a blind eye on top of it, because there's, it's clear to me, I'm absolutely 100% positive that 99% of the information that you get out there in popular culture about the Illuminati and the Freemasons is completely wrong. So what are the Freemasons? First of all, there's a lot of different opinions as to the origin of the secret knowledge, but basically the Freemasons are a Western occult secret society. The secret doctrine, as a lot of people have called it, is basically, it's a lot of things, but it is built around methods that will induce the gnosis in an individual. It's about stripping away the programming from society and then inducing through ritual and teachings genuine spiritual awakening. It's about studying the laws of nature and figuring out how to use them to fulfill the will or the designs of the magician. So it is a magical tradition. I know the main body of Freemasonry has denied this, but you can look for yourself. That is another thing that I've noticed that is really just baffling to me. That the writings of Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, are available online. I think the series or sequence of events that led to his arrest and the exposure of the Illuminati plan was first one of his messengers was hit by lightning, and he was carrying some documents in his pocket. They were then discovered, which led the authorities to raid his home and take his writings, which somehow were subsequently printed. And so there's not a lot of reason for all this conjecture. I mean, if you're listening to these guys talk on YouTube, most of them, it's just their ideas about what's going on. It's got nothing to do with the actual plan or anything that Adam Weishaupt was thinking. And so if you just look at the name Illuminati, first of all, it doesn't really sound like an organization that is there to suppress consciousness and to keep people ignorant and enslave and all that. And in fact, we'll read some excerpts from the existing writings of Adam Weishaupt, and I'll put a link that will take you to most of the existing writings. I did notice this particular website, part of the details of the plan were seized and none of that is there, but there's enough to give you an idea of what this guy was about and what it is that he was trying to do. And of course, what I'm suggesting is that the misdirection comes from the people who are actually trying to keep the human race in ignorance and in slavery, and they're doing a very good job. And one of the ways that they do that, it's very Orwellian, to confuse friend and enemy. They have taken the people that have published the secret doctrine, for example, Aleister Crowley. Most people think that he was a completely evil, Illuminati priest, and I would say that he definitely was an Illuminati priest, but I don't think that it is fair to say that he was evil at all. I mean, perfect? Certainly not, but then nothing is. So, and that's another good, one of the big mysteries about the Illuminati is whether they have survived to the present day. I would say that the writings of Aleister Crowley, once you're familiar with the writings of Adam Weishaupt, are pretty good evidence that the Illuminati did continue to exist beyond the time that the historians officially say that when the plan was discovered, they were dissolved. In fact, if you think about that, it really doesn't make any sense at all, because what Adam Weishaupt had done is infiltrated the Freemasons with agents that no one knew their identity. So how could any historian claim to know for sure that this plan was not effectualized? So basically the idea, as I was alluding to earlier, is that there are secret teachings that are very powerful and empower a person to, as Aleister Crowley said, to work magic, which is just causing change to occur in conformity with will. And it's very simple. It is a matter of understanding the relationship between consciousness and energy, and also having a deep and profound understanding of the geometries that lie behind nature and how the systems in nature work. And then when you create a system, you're modeling it on those systems that are present in nature. So it's sort of like putting Taoism into action. And so how I came to really get deeply involved with all of this stuff, I was initiated into a Masonic body maybe 10 years ago or so. So I did get to see for myself some of the rumors confirmed, for example, that everyone up to the 3rd degree is misled about what the organization is and what it does. The 32nd degree master of the lodge, where I was in Ukiah, actually told me very early on that I knew more about what was happening within the lodges and what Freemasonry was than anyone else in the lodge. And I realized very quickly that these were all 3rd degree and below, except for this one guy who was 32nd degree. So it is definitely true that most Freemasons have no idea what is happening, why they're there. They think it's just a Christian civic organization, and there's not a lot of secret knowledge actually given to them, and that is all true. But the reasons for that, I think, are a little bit different than what you would get from David Icke or, some of these people that are kind of fear-mongering, and I think just, entirely conjecture. So another thing that happened that really drew my attention to Freemasonry and ultimately to the Illuminati is that I became aware that there was something to it that would help me in my own spiritual growth, my own spiritual journey, and to empower me, to empower others. And so, not being a person that used the internet a lot at the time, it didn't occur to me that maybe I could find, a leaked copy of this book on Amazon or something. So, I didn't check there, and I'm not sure that it would have been available at the time. I know now enough copies of it have gotten out because, say a Mason has died and his widow has given the books to the local used bookstore, which is what happened in this occasion. But I actually was looking for the book, and I had a dream that it was in the local used bookstore in a relatively small town in Colorado. And I went down to the bookstore, and I looked on the shelf, and there it was, Morals and Dogma. And so when you open the book, the first thing that you notice is that there's a stamp that says, "Esoteric book for Scottish Rite use only, to be returned upon withdrawal or death of recipient." So there are two things about that. Obviously, you were not supposed to have this book unless you were a Freemason, and also for a group who officially says they have nothing to do with magic and mysticism, to label their, I don't want to call it a Masonic Bible, but it's like their main handbook, an esoteric book. That kind of gives away the nature of the thing and what it's about. And I'm going to read a short excerpt from it because I feel like it serves very well to illustrate what their understanding is and the nature of this knowledge that gives them their power. So, and this is the first paragraph. Just right away he goes into it. Force, unregulated or ill-regulated, is not only wasted in the void like that of gunpowder burned in the open air, and steam unconfined by science, but striking in the dark and its blows meeting only the air, they recoil and bruise itself. It is destruction and ruin. It is the volcano, the earthquake, the cyclone, not growth and progress. It is Polyphemus blinded, striking at random and falling headlong along the sharp rocks by the impetus of his own blows. The blind force of the people is a force that must be economized and also managed as the blind force of steam, lifting the ponderous iron arms and turning the large wheels is made to bore and rifle the cannon and to weave the most delicate lace. It must be regulated by intellect. Intellect is to the people and the people's force what the slender needle of the compass is to the ship, its soul, always counseling the huge mass of wood and iron and always pointing to the north. To attack the citadels built upon all sides against the human race by superstition, despotism, prejudice, this force must have a brain and a law. Then its deeds of daring produce permanent results, and there is real progress. Then there are sublime conquests. Thought is a force, and philosophy should be an energy, finding its aim and its effects in the amelioration of mankind. These two great motors are truth and love. When all these forces are combined and guided by the intellect and regulated by the rule of right and justice and of combined and systematic movement and effort, the great revolution prepared for by the ages will begin to march. The power of the deity himself is in equilibrium with his wisdom. Hence the only results are harmony. It is because force is ill-regulated that revolutions prove failures. Therefore, it is that so many insurrections, coming from those high mountains that domineer over the moral horizon, justice, wisdom, reason, right, built of the purest snow of the ideal after a long fall from rock to rock, after having reflected the sky in their transparency and been swollen by 100 affluents, and the majestic path of triumph suddenly lose themselves in quagmires like a California river in the sands. And so there are a number of things that can be gleaned from that. When he's talking about how, the blind force of the people must be ruled by intellect, he's basically describing how they're using an understanding of natural law to guide the energy of these populations to produce certain effects. And this is a very good illustration of the principles of Western magic. There's another key statement that he makes in there when he says that thought is a force. And this is what I was alluding to when I was talking about how, magic is the science and art of creating change in consistency with will, or whatever exactly the quote is. So he goes on to say, basically, that there's a revolution afoot that will lead to the amelioration or the emancipation of mankind. And so this sounds very different from the mainstream rhetoric about how the Freemasons and the Illuminati are trying to strip away all the rights of people and keep people in ignorance and, et cetera, et cetera. And so the secrecy, I can address that as well. A lot of people have become very suspicious of the secrecy, and there can be good reasons for that. First of all, there are two branches, I guess you would say, in the Western occult tradition, and we call one of them the left-hand path and the other is the right-hand path. On the left-hand path, we have people that use the secret doctrine, that use this knowledge only to empower themselves, only to serve themselves. They don't care about any destruction they cause to anyone else, and we call those the brothers of the left-hand path. On the right-hand path, you have people like Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, who are actually working for the illumination of all of mankind, and ideally it's supposed to be a totally selfless effort. So even at the cost of your own well-being, you were willing to totally commit yourself to the cause of bringing illumination, higher consciousness, freedom, happiness, liberty to all of mankind. And not only that, one of the main ideas in the Western mystery schools is that every single person has a true will, has some purpose that they were basically designed by the consciousness that guides the affairs of the universe in order to fulfill. In our society, because we have these brothers of the left-hand path and other people that are domineering and looking to suppress and control, a lot of people have totally lost connection with any idea of a true will, or a connection with your higher self that would, guide you into the fulfillment of that will. Okay, so why do Masons keep secrets? That's definitely a multifaceted question, and it of course is going to depend on which lodge are we talking about, left-hand path, the right-hand path. But I think one of the least known and probably what would be most beneficent reason that Masons keep secrets is going to be kind of a surprise, and it's actually so that they don't interrupt another person's gnosis. For example, an experience that I had with a certain ritual that you perform when you're becoming a magician over and over again. You do this twice a day for a year, and there's a certain archangel that you were visualizing in your head, and when you, after a while, after performing this ritual over and over again, you'll see certain things in association with this archangel, and I'm not going to say what those things are just in case anybody out there decides to do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. I don't want to mess up your journey, because if I describe it in full and then it happens to you, then you'll never know whether it's just because I put it in your head, so the power of suggestion leading to these experiences or not. So one of the main reasons that Masons keep secrets is just to protect the other person's process of gnosis, because they don't want them to think that maybe the idea was just planted in their head. Oftentimes when you have performed these rituals for a while and you tell your teacher, your superior, whoever's above you in the order, they'll hand you a sealed envelope you'll open it up, and it just shows you that they knew what was going to occur in your head. And then the question is, how? Why? I mean, there's nothing obvious about this ritual in the geometries, in the names that you are vibrating, that has any association with what eventually appears in association with this particular archangel. So there's really no good explanation for it, and that's part of the power of this demonstration of ritual efficacy. So aside from protecting each other's gnosis, there's also the fact that it is about gnosis, and I can tell you Masonic secrets all day. In fact, most of them are online at this point. And if you haven't had certain experiences that allow you to really integrate and understand what is being communicated to you, I mean, I don't know if you've ever learned something and then like what it actually means deepens over time. So, I mean, you may get one of these secrets, and then as you move through the degrees, it becomes deeper and deeper and deeper in meaning. But those are actually the two main reasons, aside from if you are associated with the Left-Hand Path Lodge, then there is some degree of wanting to keep the secrets in order to empower yourself and keep them out of the hands of other people so that they will be subservient to you. And that is definitely a factor. But there are much more benign lodges where, you know, that intention has got absolutely nothing to do with it. It's just to protect the initiate. Okay, so I guess, you know, what we're getting at with all of this, the gist of it, is that, you know, there's this ancient secret doctrine that some say was transmitted to us from the star tribes. I'll make a video on that. Eventually I have some direct experience that, you know, has fairly well convinced me that there's some truth to that. And so at any rate, this knowledge came from somewhere. It empowered the pharaohs. That's why there's the pyramid is a symbol of the Illuminati, and it's on the dollar bill. And another reason for that is that, you know, when we talk about learning, using knowledge of natural systems in order to create powerful structures and empires and all of this, the pyramid is the most stable geometrical shape in the universe. And so, you know, it's a symbol of how they work. A lot of people feel like, you know, having the 1% at the top and all these poor people at the bottom, this is not unnatural. You know, the whole thing with the 1% or whatever, it's actually not unnatural. This is the way to create how broad must your foundation be if your apex is to surpass the stars. You know, this is the idea behind this particular expression and symbology of the methods of the illuminated. And so at any rate, back to the Illuminati. The point of this illumination being that we are all to free ourselves from the prejudices, from the programming of society, to get rid of religion. And as a side note, that is a major source of where all of this fear of the Illuminati has come from. When, you know, when this stuff was really starting to get out there in books and stuff, it was 1920s, 1930s, Europe and America. People were pretty Christian. And as soon as there was stuff printed about how these organizations were trying to get rid of religion, the Christian right said, well, they're trying to throw our God away and they're satanic and evil. And so, you know, this original, you know, like first impressions are, you know, so important. This is the first impression that mainstream America got. A bunch of Christians feeling threatened by the notion that someone's going to do away with religion. And so, back to the Illuminati. So, Adam Weishaupt has this plan to infiltrate the Masonic lodges. He talks about how they had divided into several bodies. None of them could prove that they were the original lineage. And he had, you know, he'd picked up on the fact that something had gone wrong in some of these lodges, and that they had become basically lodges of left-hand path brethren. And they had concocted a plan to use the secret knowledge to empower themselves and to enslave everyone else. And so he decided that this is not good. And he came up with this plan to infiltrate the lodges and to ultimately to leak all of the Masonic secrets to all of mankind in order to induce a global gnosis, which would make everyone aware of their higher purpose and create global harmony. You know, I mean, just imagine the world just even with no religion. You know, and he wasn't saying we will have no spirituality. I mean, this is an organization that is built around the idea of spiritual energies and, you know, a higher consciousness. But the old fairy tale religions that are causing all of this, you know, these wars and battles over dogma, you know, obviously something needs to be done about this. So let's have a look at what Adam Weishaupt actually had to say. Okay, so again, these are not this is not like the complete writings of Adam Weishaupt. This is just some stuff that I have selected. I'll put a link in the comments to where you can go through and read for yourself some more. But he's basically saying illumination gradually frees them from all religious prejudices, cultivates the social virtues, and animates them by a great, feasible, speedy prospect of universal happiness in a state of liberty and moral equality, freed from the obstacles which subordination, rank, and riches continually throw in our way. My explanation is accurate and complete. My means are effectual and irresistible. Our secret association works in a way that nothing can withstand, and man shall soon be free and happy. This is the great object held out by this association, and the means of attaining it is illumination, enlightenment, and the understanding by the Sun of Reason, which will dispel the clouds of superstition and of prejudice. The proficients in this order are therefore justly named the illuminated. And of all illumination which human reason can give, none is comparable to the discovery of what we are, our nature, our obligations, what happiness we are capable of, and what are the means of attaining it. In comparison with this, the most brilliant sciences are but amusements for the idle and luxurious. To fit man by illumination for active virtue, to engage him to it by the strongest motives, to render the attainment of it easy and certain by finding employment for every talent, and by placing every talent in its proper sphere of action, so that all, without feeling any extraordinary effort, and in conjunction with and in completion of ordinary business, shall urge forward with united powers the general task. This indeed will be an employment suited to noble natures, grand in its views, and delightful in its exercise. And what is the general object? The happiness of the human race. Morality will perform all this. And morality is the fruit of illumination. Illumination shows us our rights, and morality follows. That morality will teach us to be of age, to be out of wardenship, to be full grown, and to walk without the leading strings of priests and princes. Man has fallen from the condition of liberty and equality, the state of pure nature. He is under subordination and civil bondage arising from the vices of man. This is the fall and original sin. The kingdom of grace is that restoration which may be brought about by illumination and just morality. This is the new birth. When man lives under government, he is fallen, his worth is gone, and his nature tarnished. Those who possess this knowledge are indeed Illuminati. No religionist must, on any account, be admitted into these. For here we work at the discovery and extirpation of superstition and prejudices. By this plan we shall direct all mankind in this manner, and by the simplest means we shall set all in motion and in flames. The occupations must be so allotted and contrived that we may in secret influence all political transactions. I have considered everything and so prepared it that should the order in this day go to ruin, I shall in 1 year reestablish it more brilliant than ever. So the discovery of the true will, discovery of a higher purpose in the individual, statements like, when man is governed, he has fallen, his true worth is gone. Obviously, it doesn't take much to realize that this is literally the opposite of what the media is telling everyone the Illuminati were about. And I would suggest that the main reason for that is just that the teachings are so powerful that if you realize that, and then you start digging and you start looking and you become empowered in this way, Adam Weishaupt's plan will fulfill itself, and the people that seek to enslave and to manipulate and exploit people for their own purposes are going to lose their power, and obviously that is not what they want. So we're going to make some more videos on this topic at some point in the future. I hope this is able to lend some clarity. We'll get back to the plant medicine subject pretty soon. Please like, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon.